The year is 1801. The United States is a young, fragile experiment clinging to the eastern seaboard, bounded by the Atlantic Ocean to the east and the mighty Mississippi River to the west. For American farmers living west of the Appalachian Mountains, the Mississippi is their lifeline. It is the only viable highway to move their crops and goods to market. But the mouth of this great river is controlled by the port city of New Orleans. President Thomas Jefferson knows that whoever controls New Orleans controls the economic destiny of the American interior. At the time, Spain controls New Orleans, but in a secret treaty, they agree to hand the territory back to France. And France is ruled by Napoleon Bonaparte, a military genius with grand ambitions. Napoleon envisions a revived French Empire in the Americas. His plan is to use the fertile lands of the Mississippi Valley to supply food and timber to the crown jewel of the French Caribbean, the incredibly wealthy, sugar-producing colony of Saint-Domingue, known today as Haiti. But history has a way of shifting on the smallest pivots. Enslaved people in Saint-Domingue rise up in a fierce revolution. Defeated by brilliant rebel tactics and a devastating outbreak of yellow fever, the French army is decimated. Without control of Haiti, Napoleon's need for the Louisiana territory vanishes entirely. Furthermore, war is looming again with Great Britain, and Napoleon desperately needs cash to fund his European military campaigns. Unaware of this dramatic shift, President Jefferson sends diplomats to Paris. Their mission is modest: offer France up to $10 million just for New Orleans and the immediate surrounding lands to secure American trade routes. When they arrive, the French minister makes a shocking counteroffer. "What will you give for the whole of Louisiana?" Stunned, and with no time to get authorization from Congress, the diplomats have to make a decision on the spot. In April of 1803, they agree to buy the entire territory for $15 million. That's roughly $18 per square mile. In a single stroke of a pen, the United States acquires 828,000 square miles of land. Despite Jefferson's strict constitutional ideals, he didn't believe the president actually had the legal power to buy foreign land. The deal is simply too good to pass up. The Louisiana Purchase officially doubles the size of the United States. But what exactly did the country just buy? To find out, Jefferson commissions the Corps of Discovery, tapping Meriwether Lewis and William Clark to lead an expedition. In May of 1804, they set out from St. Louis, traveling up the Missouri River into the unknown. As they push deeper into the continent, the dense eastern forests give way to the seemingly endless expanses of the Great Plains. The men are astounded by the wildlife, documenting grizzly bears, prairie dogs, and massive herds of bison that stretch to the horizon. During their first freezing winter, they hire a French-Canadian trapper and his pregnant Shoshone wife, Sacagawea. She becomes an invaluable member of the expedition. Not only does she serve as a guide and interpreter, but the presence of a woman and a baby signals to local tribes that this is a peaceful mission. Surviving starvation and harsh elements, the Corps relies heavily on the generosity and trade of indigenous peoples. Without native help, the expedition would have undoubtedly perished. In 1805, they face their greatest obstacle, the Rocky Mountains. Jefferson had hoped they would find a northwest passage, an easy water route connecting the Missouri River to the Pacific Ocean. Instead, they find a towering, jagged wall of stone and snow. The crossing is a brutal test of human endurance. But they survive. In November of 1805, they finally reached the crashing waves of the Pacific coast. They did not find the Northwest Passage, but they successfully charted a path westward. The Louisiana Purchase and the Lewis and Clark expedition cracked open the door to the west. In the decades that follow, that door is torn completely off its hinges. By the 1840s, a new ideology grips the American consciousness: manifest destiny. It is the powerful belief that the expansion of the United States across the continent is a divine mission, that the nation is destined to spread its democratic and capitalist ideals from sea to shining sea. Driven by the promise of cheap land and fresh starts, hundreds of thousands of settlers packed their lives into covered wagons and hit the grueling western trails. But Manifest Destiny is a story of profound contradiction. The land being settled is not empty. It is home to millions of indigenous people with rich, complex cultures. For Native Americans, westward expansion is an apocalypse. Treaties are made and broken with alarming speed. The U.S. military is repeatedly used to violently displace tribes from their ancestral homelands, forcing them onto smaller reservations. The tragic legacy of this displacement, marked by events like the Trail of Tears and decades of Plains Indian Wars, remains one of the darkest chapters in American history. Furthermore, westward expansion accelerates the nation toward a massive internal crisis. As new territories are carved out of the West, a fierce debate rages in Congress. Will these new states allow slavery, or will they be free? The relentless push west ensures that the moral and economic question of slavery cannot be contained, directly setting the stage for the American Civil War. Despite the bloodshed, the pace of expansion only accelerates. The discovery of gold in California in 1848 triggers a massive migration. Soon, the dusty wagon trails are replaced by iron rails. The completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in 1869 physically binds the coasts together. A journey that once took 6 grueling months now takes less than a week. Today, the geography of the United States is something we take for granted. We look at a map and see a cohesive nation stretching from the Atlantic to the Pacific. But it was not preordained. It was the result of a slave revolt in the Caribbean, an overextended French emperor, an unprecedented real estate deal, courageous explorers, indigenous displacement, and the relentless, driving ambition of pioneers. The Louisiana Purchase didn't just buy land. It bought the future of the United States, a future of incredible prosperity and profound, lingering consequences.